Good afternoon, Oscar. Thank you so much for the invitation to address the group. And thank you, Mr. Moore, and your team for putting together this event. This conversation is very much needed. And this is not just a conversation. This is an event where folks will walk away with actual practical skills and they could apply them to their businesses, so they can make money at the end of the day, right? If we're not making money as business owners, none of this makes sense. So I really appreciate the opportunity, and certainly great to see my dear friend, Dr. Yao. We're in great hands. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the work that they do is quite incredible. I mean, they host folks from heads of states to secretary generals across the African continent, working to strengthen trade relations between the United States and our counterparts on the African continent. So great work. But to introduce myself, I'm Johanna Leblanc. I'm a partner at the Adobe Advisory Group, PLLC. We are an international law firm with a global public policy group. We do litigation. We support, in addition to that, we support foreign governments in advancing their interest here in Washington. But we also support businesses and investors to secure debt financing for projects in emerging markets, which is why I'm here today to provide an overview on the process. And unfortunately, because of time, we're not going to be able to go deep into the entire process of securing debt financing, but I hope this presentation will give you just an overview, a general information about how to secure funding for your business. Let me share my screen here. 1 second. Okay, here you go. Okay. You guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. You know, a lot of us have incredible ideas. We have businesses that we either trying to expand or we trying to get off the ground, but the money is often the problem, right? Especially when you're dealing with SMEs, and SMEs are critical because they're obviously the backbone of economies all across the world, including economies across the African continent. But as my co-panelist indicated, Dr. Yao, you could not pick a better time to do business on the African continent. You know, I've been in the Africa space for quite some time now. There was a time when the conversation was about humanitarian assistance. It was about health issues. It was about hunger. It was about poverty. But now the conversation is about investing. It's about trade, right? But how do we get money, right, to engage in some of the projects that we're interested in? Let's say, for example, you have a hospital that's been operating for 3 years or maybe 5 years, maybe 2 years, and you want to expand from, let's say, a 10-bed hospital to a 100-bed hospital. How do you do that? Where's the money? And who are the agencies and the financial institutions that can assist you? So that is the purpose of today's presentation, to provide you just an overview of the process, what it looks like, and just to also reaffirm that there is financing available, and with the right partners, with the right support, with the right assistance, you can unlock some of those financing so that you can create jobs, right? And then you can advance societies across the African continent. So as it relates to the United States government, my presentation will cover financing opportunities in the U.S., but also globally. Our law firm, when we work with financial institutions here in the United States, like the Development Finance Corporation, obviously Afri-Exim Bank, we have our partners in the Middle East, in the United Kingdom, and other parts of the world. But for the purpose of this presentation, for the United States government right now, there are a few priority areas. And those are the areas that if you're looking for financing, you're more than likely to receive financing. And they are agriculture, healthcare, infrastructure, energy, and financing. And that is for folks who maybe have a bank and you're looking to provide, let's say, loans to SMEs or women-led SMEs. So that will fall under financing. You could potentially that will be something that the Development Finance Corporation would be interested in. And financial institutions are institutions like the U.S. Development Finance Corporation. It was recently named OPIC, but now It's called DFC. They've changed some of the rules, which makes it just a little bit easier to secure financing than it was before. And then you have Afri-Exim Bank, which is a bank located with headquarters in Egypt, but on the African continent nonetheless. And there are plenty of others, but just for the sake of time, I just mentioned two. But when it comes to grants, because we also always talk about, okay, debt financing, but what about grants for feasibility studies and technical assistance? You have U.S. U.S. TDA, which is the U.S. Trade Development Agency. That could provide grants for feasibility study as well as technical support. Because as you know, before you can get a project ready to be financed, there are certain steps you have to take. And one of them is a feasibility study, and that often costs thousands and thousands of dollars. And USTDA could potentially support with that. And what our firm does is our firm literally supports clients from the beginning to the end in terms of making sure that their application meets all of the requirements before you submit it to whether DFC, Afri-Exim Bank, or whichever other agency or financial institution that may exist. Let's look at general eligibility. So generally speaking, when you're looking at a project, you have to look at the development impact, right? Does this project contribute to economic growth and social benefits? Now, that specific area is based on the country. Like, if you're looking to get financing through DFC, that is something that they're going to want to be clearly articulated in your business plan, right? But if you're looking for financing in a place like through a financing institution in the Middle East or in China, that is not necessarily one of the things that they're focused on, right? They're more focused on will this project generate revenue, right? Is this a bankable project? Is this a financially sound business decision? But for the purpose of the United States, if you're going to USTDA or even DFC, that social benefit to society must be included in your statement and your business plan and must be clearly articulated, right? And then you look at financial viability. You must have a solid business plan and projected cash flows, at least 3 years of financial statements. A lot of times you meet clients and they are, on the surface, everything looks good. They tell you they've been making a lot of money, they've been doing really good. And then you say, okay, let me look at the books, right? You start pulling out the financial records and so forth, and you realize that this company has not been making any money. So therefore, this company is not even quite eligible to even apply for financing at the moment, right? Or they've been making money, but they've been reporting that they have not made money for whatever reason. So if you are looking for debt financing from any financial institution, you want to make sure that that it is clearly conveyed through your business plan, through your financial statements, that you have been making money, and that there's the projected cash flow actually is indeed sound in the business plan. And then also there is environmental and social standards. Again, if you're looking to do business to get financing with the United States government, US DFC, that is a very important component for our financial partners in perhaps in the Middle East or even in China, not necessarily. So when you're looking at doing your business plan, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you hire a consulting firm, someone who understands how that particular institution you're going before actually works. And let me tell you why. We come across clients all the time who are looking for debt financing. They have great business plans that were drafted by someone in their country. They're probably living, let's say, Nigeria and Ghana, right? So they're writing the business plan based on their understanding of what a financial institution would want to see in a business plan. Well, when they come to us and we look at the business plan, we're like, wow, like it's great, but it does not really address some of the key areas that we know our financial partners will want to see. Maybe it's Afri-Exim Bank, maybe it's DFC, but nonetheless, you want to make sure that whoever writes your business plan understands what some of these financial institutions are looking for. Or else you're going to write the business plan, and then once you get to the financial institution to start the process, they're going to start asking you a lot of questions that you don't have the answer to, which will delay the process. So preparing for your application, as I said earlier, you will need obviously a business plan, your financial statements, environmental and social assessments, have that readily available. And when you're applying for financing, I encourage that you don't just apply for financing through one financial institution, maybe select 2 to 3 financial institutions, so that if you are qualified towards the end, you will be in a much better place to negotiate your interest rates, right? In our law firm, we have lawyers that are finance lawyers that are there to actually negotiate on your behalf your interest rates in the end. But if you only have one potential offer, right, it makes it a little bit difficult to actually negotiate versus if you have 3, 4 commitments from various financial institutions. Also, due diligence and also transparency is crucial. So throughout the process, you want to be very transparent about everything, right? You don't want to provide information that is not accurate. One of the things that our firm is really good at is that we come in contact with a lot of business owners on the regular. But we do our due diligence. We go through the paperwork and go through the financial statements to actually make sure that this company is actually one, a legit company, and 2, this company is actually a serious company, right? Because what happens is that when you have someone who's representing your interest before a financial institution, and they're bringing projects that are shady, for lack of a better word, it diminishes the reputation of that firm. So many of the firms, especially in Washington, D.C., there are some clients that just won't take, because once they do their due diligence, they will realize that there are just too many red flags, and it's just not worth it. And the reason why some of the firms are able to get things moving and get things done quick is because of the reputation of the various members of that firm. And we want to keep it that way. And also for your project, you want to show a strong team, right, with relevant experiences, right? So you want to show that in your business plan that there is a team that will be running this project, and they do have the relevant experience, education, and all of the qualifications that are needed. So let's go through what to consider when you are actually drafting a business plan, right? You want to certainly describe the purpose for which the loan is to be used in the project development activities completed the date, right? So let's say that you are building a hospital, for example, right? And you've already bought the land, right? So you want to make sure that you articulate that in the business plan, that the purpose of this loan is to expand a hospital in, let's say, Zimbabwe, in Harare, Zimbabwe. And we've bought the land, and the land was acquired for, let's say, $2 million, right? And then that will go towards your project cost. You want to be very clear. And also another thing that you have to understand is that most financial institutions is not going to provide you funding for your entire project cost, right? Most financial institutions finance between 40 to maybe 70% of the project. So you're going to need the rest of it, right? And that the rest of it could come from shareholders, equity partners, whatever the case may be. So, but you want to make sure that you have the commitments from whoever is going to provide the rest of the funding. And the financial institutions will want to know, they will want to see that you actually have that commitment on lock before they even proceed with the process. Because what they don't want to do is they don't want to get to the end of the process, and now they've committed to providing you with, let's say, $13 million, but the rest of the money that is needed for the project to actually be executed is not there. So keep that in mind. That is very important. Having your equity partners, your shareholders, or whomever is going to provide additional financing to make sure you get that commitment from them. And I said this earlier before, has a feasibility study been performed? If so, you will describe the scope of the study, identify the author, and identify the date of completion. And also, has the project company been incorporated in the host country? If so, what is the date of incorporation? What is the timeline? And if you need certain licensing from a specific ministry within that country, were you able to secure that licensing? When did that happen? When will the license expire? All of those things need to be clearly articulated in the plan. And then if you've made expenses throughout the process, you want to provide information, right? How much money has been spent, right? Perhaps you bought equipment, right? Again, you may have bought the land. How much have you spent up to date? And also, you want to list all key operating agreements necessary to undertake the project, such as concession agreements, construction contracts, offtake agreements, environmental impact studies, feasibility studies, marketing studies, technical assistance agreements, management services agreements, leases, and etc. So you want to be as detailed as you possibly can in your business plan. And also, you want to outline your expected timeline to complete key milestones. Like, for example, if it takes like three months to acquire a permit, you want to include that in there, right? And I would hope that by the time you go to a financial institution to request financing, you already have most of that work done, and it's not after you've submitted, then you want to go back to the drawing board trying to figure out, how to get certain licenses. Now, obviously, there are certain projects that you can't get the license until the project has taken off the ground, right? Once the hospital is operating, then you can get certain license. That is an example. But in the cases where you can actually acquire those things, right, before the project is actually ready for execution, you want to do all of that as soon as possible. And if that's not the case, you want to provide deadlines which you will make that happen, right? And then describe supplier networks needed for the successful operation of the project. Describe the availability of necessary infrastructure like water, roads, and etc. Also, too, if you're, again, I'm using the hospital as an example. If you're constructing a hospital, we will want to know things like who's going to be the company that's going to do the construction, right? Are they licensed? Have they done this work before? Have they been successful? What other hospitals have they built on the continent, right? Or in this particular country? All of that needs to be conveyed clearly in the business plan. And also, too, I think it's important for me to note this. If you have equity sponsors or shareholders that are going to provide financing, that are providing financial support for this project, you want to get actual commitment letters from them saying that I, Malika Catron, will be providing, let's say, $2 million for X, Y, and Z project, right? Because the financial institutions just want that kind of security, right? And you want it notarized. They're not going to contact the equity partners early on in the process. It will be towards the end, but at the very minimum, you want the financial institution to feel comfortable about the possibility of moving forward with your project, because they know that you already have a certain amount of money already set aside and already been committed to in the event that you were to be qualified for the rest of the funding through their respective financial institution. So the project cost, right? You want to make sure that that is, again, also clearly articulated. What amount is being funded in equity capital by the sponsors, investors. You will list each equity investor, including the name, amount, cash, and status. And for non-cash investments, you will explain how value was determined and when. So when we talk about non-cash investments, we could be talking about the equipment, the land that was acquired, right? And then for what collateral is proposed to secure the loan, you want to make sure you mention that as well. So generally speaking, the application process review is one, initial inquiry, right? Contact the financial institution directly or a firm to discuss your project, right? I always recommend that you work with those who are qualified, who have done this work, who understand the process, right? Because working with these various financial institutions, oftentimes, it may seem simple, but once you get in there, you realize there's a whole lot of information that you may not have. Our finance team is ran by some of the most brilliant financial experts that I have ever met. And each and every day, I'm learning something different about the process because it can be a bit complicated, but nonetheless, with the right guidance and the right people working with you, you can be successful. And then once you've done that, you will submit a detailed application with required documents. There will be a project review. The financial institution conducts due diligence and evaluates the project. Now, the due diligence aspect of it is when the financial institution will actually take a trip to the project location. Sometimes, in many cases, you as the potential client will have to pay that money for the financial institution to travel to your site to make sure that this site actually exists and that you actually have the land and that this project does actually exist, right? And then they will evaluate the project to ascertain whether or not this is something that they will move forward with. And if you are approved, you have to negotiate the terms. And this is where you have finance lawyers come and they do the negotiation on your behalf, right? And then disbursements, and there are different, and the disbursement aspect is very complicated, very nuanced. We could literally do an entire session on just disbursements alone. And then you want to look at also project ownership, right? Tracing back through any and all holding companies, operating to individuals or shareholders owning the company. And when we talk about project ownership, I think it's important to note that when you are applying for financing to conduct a project, it is important that you have people on the team who have actually done that work and who have been successful, because you have to show a track record, right? If you have never done this work and there is nobody on your team that can show track record, a financial institution is going to feel very uncomfortable giving you money, right? You have to be able to show the track record. Maybe you personally can't show it, but you have to find people who will be part of the team that have the track record, and you can use their experience to go towards the project. That is very important. I was a little bit too early. So how many years has the project company has been revenue generating? If the project company is a subsidiary of a parent holding company that is a revenue producing, how long has the parent company been revenue generating? How does the company track record qualify the applicant for this project? And are historical financial statements audited? If so, to what accounting standards and by which accounting firm? Okay. And you also want to bring a third party to do this for you, not internally, because internally the information could be biased. So again, with the development impact aspect of some of these projects, if you're looking for financing through the United States, everybody wants a story. They want a story. They want to know what inspired you, what drive you to do this, right? And what commitment do you have to making society a better place, right? Let's say that, again, I'm going to go back to the hospital. Maybe your hospital is located in a place where women and children have very limited access to healthcare, right? But your hospital is committed, dedicated to providing access to healthcare to everyone, regardless of their socioeconomic status, right? But at the same time, also making money from a particular sector that comes in regularly, right? So you want to share that story, like, what inspires you, what drives you? What commitment do you have to making society a better place? So key components of a successful application. One, the business plan is clear. There's a clear objective, right? The market analysis is done, and there's a financial projection. The development impact demonstrate how the project will contribute to development goals. 3, risk mitigation, strategies for managing financial, operation, and political risk. And knowing that, you know, many of you will do business in Africa, you also have to take into account the fluctuation in currency, right? What plan do you have in place when the currency fluctuates in that respective country? And also sustainability, commitment to environmental and social standards. I have 0 minutes left, so thank you for your time. If you have any further questions, if you want to know more about us, visit us at adobegroup.com, and you can email me at jleblanc@adobegroup.com. Thank you so much.